you can create an environment where it is safe to talk about mental health, where you don't feel uncomfortable telling your boss that you're going to therapy, where it's normalized just as taking care of our physical health is normalized.
Hi, this is Hannah and Lisa with the latest edition of our Zoomside Chat. Our topic this time is mental health in the workplace. This is something that organizations and companies were starting to talk about more before the pandemic hit, and now a lot of focus is being put on how do we take care of people's mental health at work.
Mental health is such a fraught topic. I think less so now than it used to be, more important now than probably ever before. And it's just something that whenever you bring it up at work, it can kind of feel, or it certainly has felt in the past, like super awkward, kind of taboo, like leave your problems at home. Don't bring that into the workplace. Like, why are you talking about therapy? I definitely think the conversation around that has changed lately. Thank goodness, because we need it. We need therapy right now. We need to take care of our mental health. Part of the reason why is the younger generations are ushering in a new mindset around mental health.
For sure. I think millennials and Gen Z especially are just so more comfortable with talking about mental health. In research preparing for the Zoomcast, I found a study, and it's one study, but it found that 50% of millennials and 75% of Gen Z have left their job because of mental health challenges. It's in one hand, it's sad where it's like, oh my gosh, you're really going through something. You need to leave your job. Is what's going on at your job the reason you're leaving? I mean, there's so many questions around it. And at the same time, I think it's cool if they're advocating for themselves and not staying in a place that's clearly toxic and unhealthy for them to go find something better.
I mean, and that just brings up the point that caring about your employees' mental health, I think it's important just to care, just because you're good people, you're good leaders, you're a good organization, you care. But also, if you don't care, you are going to lose people. Like, you're just going to lose like employees, talent. They're going to walk out the door because they cannot handle it. They cannot manage it right now. And especially in 2020, it's like if you weren't paying attention to it before, you absolutely have to now. So, with that in mind, let's talk through some of our favorite things that clients and organizations are doing to really nourish their employees' mental health and keep them hanging on right now and hopefully thriving. But honestly, at this point, it's like hanging on is good enough.
One company that I think is doing something really cool is LinkedIn. They have a head of mindfulness and compassion. One of the things that they're doing is they are collecting all of the resources for their employees who might need some help with their mental health. So they're pulling together all of the places they can go to see a therapist or see a counselor. If you're just having a tough day and you want to journal about it, here's a collection of good journal questions. If you want a mantra for the day, here's a good mantra. If you want some healthy recipes, here's some healthy recipes. I just think it's so helpful to have someone who's pulling all that information together for you, because when you're in a place of stress or anxiety, or if you're experiencing PTSD symptoms, I mean, all these different things, just saying, I need help is hard enough. And then finding someone who can help can feel insurmountable. So when an employer pulls that together for you, it is a beautiful, beautiful gift.
Yeah, that is such a good one. And it normalizes the conversation. Having just a head of, and you don't have to have that, but having a head of mindfulness and compassion normalizes the fact that that is something that you're going to do as an organization, is practice that compassion, practice that mindfulness, and prioritize mental health. Another thing that I think is really important, and this is a little bit speaking of mental health, a little bit speaking of managing burnout, which I think are very related, is the concept of having no meeting days. So everyone is exhausted by Zooms and fatigue is very real. We've talked about that a lot, but creating the space where you just have one, even if it's a 4-hour block a week where there are no meetings, where no one sets meetings and everyone can just focus on their work. And everyone can look forward to, if it's, Thursday afternoon or Friday morning, no meetings. I can just do my work. That is such, even just thinking about it for me is such a release. And I don't work in a huge organization. I just work with you. Not that I don't love meeting with you, but like the idea of this focused time is such a weight off your shoulders. Meetings are great, but they're also exhausting and draining, and creating that barrier around workspace where you can focus and not be meetings and hopefully not be interrupted too much. That I think is a great way to build in some support in a strange way in an employee's weekly schedule.
Another company who's doing something cool is Roche Genentech, if I'm saying that correctly. And what they did is they brought their leaders together for a campaign on their intranet site called #Let'sTalk. In that, the leaders talked personally about their own journey with mental health. Having other people share their stories really, really normalizes it for everyone. And it's the leaders modeling, again, hey, this isn't something that I'm immune to. It's okay to talk about it. And I just think that that kind of vulnerability serves as such a model for everyone else. I thought that was really, really cool.
I saw really quickly, this is not a solution, but so the other day I was on Instagram. I hate starting sentences like that. I feel like #Millennials on Instagram. But the other day I was on Instagram and someone posted something to their story that said, I was just in a Zoom meeting for work and someone asked the group, how are you doing? And 3 people started crying. And so I want to ask you all who are reading this, how are you doing? Because apparently we need to ask that of each other more often. So that when I read it, I got chills because just such a simple thing is checking in with people and asking them how they're doing. People are really, really struggling. And a big piece of the mental health conversation is acknowledging the fact that people are struggling, listening to them and being there for them, not trying to solve their problems necessarily, just listening.
When you're sharing that story about asking how are you doing, I got emotional myself listening to that story. And it sounds like there was such intention asking that question and creating space, like you said, to listen, where when you just hop on a phone call quickly and it's clearly for a certain purpose, and then you say, hey, how are you? Oh, okay, great. And then you move on. It's very different when it's intentional. Like, I'm going to create time. There are people who are not being asked, and they're not being asked, are you doing okay? It's like, work is not just about work, right? It's like when we talk about transactional versus relational, it's like, this is a place of relationships. Even if you want work to just be work, we're all humans and we thrive because of connection. And part of connection is connecting about how you're doing. I wonder if some people hold back from asking, how are you doing? Because they're scared of the response they're going to get. There's so much about managing impressions and wanting to say the right thing and wanting to respond in the right way. And I understand that because I feel that sometimes. And I think we just need to let that go. Like, you might not have the right thing to say. And sometimes you don't have to say anything. It's like, it's just being present for the other person. So it's, for some people, I think it's also about shifting that narrative of what it means to ask that question.
Yep. And sitting in your discomfort. Because I mean, I, for most of my life, have been a solution person. So whenever someone brings me a problem, I'm like, okay, here's how you're going to fix this. You're going to do this, then you're going to do that. Then we're going to go here. Done. And I've learned recently that that's not helpful always. Sometimes that's what people want, but it's good to ask, like, is this a listening moment or is this a solving moment? Or is this just a being present and like being next to you moment if I can, or watching you on Zoom? Fighting back against that immediate instinct to problem solve and offer solutions and ideas is hard, but is necessary, because in a lot of cases, people don't want to hear the solutions. Maybe there isn't a solution, and it's really uncomfortable to just listen to people grieve, to people be, broken in whatever way it is, to people struggle through whatever they're struggling through. But just listening and just being present is so much more needed, I think, right now than the solution instinct.
Yeah.
Well, I hope everyone listening to this is taking care of themselves and taking care of their people, taking care of the community. We need that so much right now. It's so important to have these conversations. So go ask someone how they're doing and be there, be present for them. Next Zoomcast, we will be talking about focus, because it is so hard to focus right now. There's so many distractions in millions of different ways, from our phones to what's happening in the news to just about everything. I mean, it's been a year of madness. So we're going to talk about, how do you get centered and focus on work or whatever it is that you want and need to focus on? How do you do that? We have some ideas. So tune in next time for that Zoomcast, and we'll see you later.